you've got to expect that Amanda Nunes is going to win the majority of exchanges, right? Majority of striking exchanges, I feel like Amanda Nunes is going to be overpowered by comparison. She's going to be more ferocious. Even though Peña's aggressive, I feel like Nunes is on a slightly higher level. I think she's slightly stronger. I think her physicality in the clinch will show, as well as the fact that she's got a good judo background. I expect her to be able to kind of dictate the pace of the fight. By comparison to the majority of her opponents, the only one that's really given her much of a challenge, in my opinion, has been Shevchenko. Like, this was her winning the belt at UFC 200. And I'm going to return to this a bit later in the show, but I want you to look at this right hand that she throws and how her elbow comes high. Like, this is a very, very powerful angle. Like, if you think when you're doing dumbbell flies or a bench press, that's a really strong position to push from. And she's firing a lot of power from that position straight at her opponent. Look how straight that goes. There's no curve on that. I mean, it almost follows the angle. Let me see. Look at that. I mean, that was just a guess. That was a pretty damn good guess. Oh, come on, TV. There we go. Very, very accurate, very straight, and very focused again, just like Julianna Peña. You know, looks for good targets, gets her wrist caught and tied up here, starts working the body with the other hand. Like, just laser focus, both hands tied up, so she goes for the knee. And then here, lovely takedown offense, presses down on the back of the head. Look at that, pressure down through that hand onto the back of the head, and then she's going to circle around and take the back. There. And then from this position, it's just a steady progress. You know, she goes for hooks. Miesha Tate's very much aware of what Nunes is trying to do. 3 rear naked chokes on her record. I think she had 1 at this point. Tries to get her hooks in, tries to pull her to the side. Miesha Tate's guarding, but she gets 1 hook in. Scrambles back to the top, lands some good shots. So this is consistent again. So she pressures her opponents. Often they level change out of pressure, as we saw in our last fight against Megan Anderson. And then she's able to circle around and take their back. And she's landing shots from angles that they can't see where the shots are coming from. She's obviously vicious and she's laser focused as well. So she's looking specifically for targets that are vulnerable, not wailing on her opponent and looking up at the referee like, hey, you know, I've done enough to show you that the fight's over. Like, venomous shots from both of these fighters. This is why this is a really good co-main event. Anyway, so she keeps slashing these shots and eventually she manages to get both hooks in and then falls to the side. But you've got to think as well, you know, a big part of this rear naked choke finish was the fact that Miesha Tate was already beaten. Like, before this rear naked choke sunk in, she was trying to fight it, but I mean, like, think about this position. So she's on her back, her nose is almost definitely broken. There's a lot of blood on the outside, so you've got to think how much blood's in her mouth and going down her throat. Like, she's probably struggling to breathe just with that anyway. And then she's got Nunes's forearm across her face that's then cranking her neck and causing her all kinds of pain. Like, it was only a matter of time before she was going to get the tap, because Miesha's not going to find a way out of there. And even if she did, I mean, how long would the fight last? Like, Nunes is, look at her eyes. And there's a reason why they call her the lioness. She's scary. The point is, Nunes she's a 2-division champion because she's so good everywhere. She's powerful and aggressive, but she's also got very accurate boxing. She's a very straight puncher, but she also looks for targets. She'll work that body, or she'll throw hooks around the side if the guard's up. Most of the time, she'll be happy to strike until her opponent level changes, and then when they do, she hits them and circles to their back, and then she can either finish off by TKO or she gets the rear naked choke. That's the most likely scenario. There's one other thing I want to show you. And it's something I spotted in Nunes' last fight, and it's also something I've seen in a couple of Golovkin's fights. It's a particular type of punch. The reason I'm showing you is, first of all, because I think it's a cool punch. Second of all, because I think there might be a use for it here for Nunes. Because Peña's got such good straight boxing. Jab, jab, cross, jab, cross, jab, jab, cross, 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 jab, cross. Like, really, really accurate, fast, straight fire punching. Nunes has also got the same thing, but she's also very good at closer range. She's also very good with hooks and uppercuts and knees and close range elbows. that might be a range where she can really contest, given the fact that Peña really probably wants to try and get this fight to the floor. With that in mind, when the range closes down, there's a particular shot that Nunes lands on Megan Anderson, which would be very suited to this fight. So let's have a quick look at this. So this is the punch in the fight with Nunes and Anderson. See how she steps in close range. She kind of pumps in a jab, pumps away in double steps, step, throws the jab, and then the right hand comes up and down into the temple of Megan Anderson. The reason why I think this is interesting is because when fighters get caught with this shot, or shots like this, it always seems to have the same effect. It seems to, I don't like the word, but I can't think of a better one than discombobulate. It fries their central nervous system for a minute. It kind of like their legs kind of go noodles. Watch. Shot comes over, and then, hey, it's like some kind of Faulty Towers walk. Like cracked right on the temple, and you can see that it lands clean on the temple as well. But the important thing is, and we talked about this in the Miesha Tate fight, we talked about this right hand, the way she throws it, elbow up, fires it down. I used to train a female fighter in LA called Roxy, and she had a wicked right hand. And if I was training someone how to do it, I wouldn't have trained them like she throws this right hand. But she would knock girls senseless with it. So I didn't want to change it too much. In fact, we drilled it and, made sure it was still consistent. But she threw her right hand the same as this. Elbow up, drives down with power, almost like you're throwing a javelin, or like you're spearing the punch into the opponent. But the difference with this one is that, look how far back it comes from. That elbow is almost pointing the opposite way from her opponent as the punch is coming over. She's swinging it over, but then she's coming down into the side of her opponent's head. And as I said, the consistent thing when I see this is that their opponent's lower body is not communicating anymore with their brain. Watch. Here's Golovkin against Steve Rolls. There's the punch, slow motion. Catch him on the top of the head. You can see Rolls is still there because he's clinching. You can see in the face he's still there. Still very aware of what's going on, what Golovkin's trying to do. He's able to slip some more punches. Here it comes again. Down on the top of the head. It's like, the only thing I can liken it to is, and if you've not seen it, go and watch it because it's a good movie. Romeo Must Die. It's a Jet Li movie. And there's a fight scene in that where the dude gets kicked on the top of the head. And you see this like X-ray going down his spine of all of his vertebrae doing dominoes. In my head, I picture it doing that, and then it kind of gets to their lower body and scrambles their legs. But the reason I'm saying this, the point I'm making it, is because I've seen Nunes throw this a few times. That right hand, as she shifts her head off the center line and comes down into the side of her opponent's head, is going to be really useful for Peña, because she goes jab, 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 and then she starts to lean with her head to the side. There's a target there for Nunes for that short right hand. If she stands at range throwing with Peña, then, who knows what's going to happen. She's, Peña is able to compete at that range, I think, because she is fast and she is durable and she can take a shot. I think if Nunes closes her down and makes it a closer range, a more, I don't know, what's the word? The dirty boxing range pretty much, but not even necessarily getting her hands on her. Just kind of keeping at that close range and coming in with those short chopping shots and elbows and knees. I think that's really where Nunes can do a lot of good damage. I just thought it was an interesting similarity, and it has a similar effect. And it could quite easily be the end of Peña if Nunes lands this shot, bang, legs are gone, she's scrambling, she level changes, and then this happens next. And of course, Nunes she's got rear naked chokes on her record. This is the only submission on her record that's not a rear naked choke. It's a reverse triangle. But there's a reason why this happened. I think the intention was still to get the rear naked choke. So here we go. This is a few seconds after. Megan Anderson hurt. She's scrambling in. Nunes takes top position. Remember, we talked back to the Miesha Tate fight where she's scrambling to get hooks, but at the same time, she's still striking. Not paying attention to the referee, young fighters. Focus on your opponent. Try and get them out. That's the goal. bang, bang. Now, the reason why she ends up with this position is because Megan Anderson does that. She hooks around this leg, which brings Amanda Nunes' leg in front of her shoulder instead of underneath her arm, which is where she would need for the rear naked choke. So as this progresses, Nunes is in a position where she's actually got her leg over the top. Instead of in a hook position, which would be here, it would be a bit deeper. And then she's going for the hook on the far side. And as this leg comes in, you'll see it popping in there. Now she's got that hook in. She's now in a, I mean, she's not on her back because one of her arms is out. She's in a almost like a triangle position. Now, after a little bit of an adjustment, she's able to feed the left leg across and make a triangle. And then she rolls through. So you can see that's where the triangle is there. That leg and that leg. So Megan Anderson is now in a position where she can't unlock this triangle. There's no way that she can posture up and posture out of this triangle because of the position that she's in. So Nunes was going to take the back. She found her leg was in that position. She adapted to a reverse triangle. I think basically it just speaks to the depth of her ground game and the fact that we don't really see it a great deal. Like I said, this is a very, very tough fight for Julianna Peña. She's behind on all the stats, but she's enthusiastic, and there aren't many contenders right now. So, you know, this is the next step for Amanda Nunes.